You through some instructional stuff that's going to show you how to hit 100-yard shots, 50-yard shots, 30-yard shots, and that all-important lob shot over the bunker. On every one of these shots he shows you, he's going to teach you how you can do it, and you'll stop the ball and back it up from all lies. The beauty of the spin doctor, even in high grass around the green. If you make contact, the ball one bounces and stops.
Watch our students Joan and Rich use Spin Doctor for the very first time.
It just hits and stops. Isn't it fantastic?
That is incredible. And it's still spinning.
You guys ready to go?
Sure.
Okay, let's get started. All right, mechanically, when we start talking about these pitch shots, there's three major areas we look at. The first area is our starting position. The second area is going to be the basic movement that we're going to make. And the third part is the actual striking of the golf ball itself. When you grab a hold of the golf club, I'm going to encourage you to use your normal full swing grip. In terms of aligning the club face, we want to make sure the club face is perpendicular. We don't want the club face to angle to the left or to the right. One of the very common problems we see in pitching is that people tend to angle their club faces to the right with the idea that that's going to help them get the golf ball up in the air. They get the golf ball up in the air by having the club face square to the line with enough loft to create the desired height and result. We want to make sure the body angles are parallel with a special emphasis on the shoulders. The eyes will also be parallel with the lower body. If you choose to angle the lower body off just slightly, that's okay. We're going to have the golf ball position in the center of the chest with the feet fairly close together, and the weight's going to be fairly evenly distributed on the shot. There's no need to really start leaning real hard onto the left foot. The shaft will be tilted forward just slightly. We'll notice it points right about at the left hip with the ball position in the center of the chest. And once we kind of get those few things taken care of, that takes care of our starting position. Everybody pretty clear on that so far?
Sure.
Okay. Next thing we'll get into is the basic movement of the club, and basically what we're going to be looking at is taking this triangle created by the arms and the shoulders, letting the body move the triangle, and then letting the triangle move the club. There's really no need to try to start scooping this shot with your hands and wrist. And you notice how the golf ball just lofted right up in the air very, very nicely when it hit the green. By using the spin doctor, boom, the thing really locked up. The primary thing that we use to control distance on these shots is our eyes, believe it or not. And it's a lot like throwing a golf ball in the sense that I have to see where the target is. I have to be able to feel how much energy is going to be required by doing some sort of rehearsal while I look at the target. And then I just put the club down behind the golf ball and trust that my eyes are going to give my brain the right amount of information in terms of how much energy to use to move the golf ball from one point to the other. Now, a couple of conditions that I would like for you to consider that need to be present in this shot. Number one is that impact, the left arm and golf club need to be in a straight line when you strike the golf ball.
Left arm?
The lead arm and golf club. Okay? For a right-handed player, it's going to be the left arm. For a left-handed player, it'll be the right arm. Okay? We really start getting in trouble when we start into these broken down conditions at impact. It really starts causing all sorts of problems. So that was the reason that we placed the golf ball in the center of the chest and tilt the shaft forward so we could straighten that arm out. The other thing is we want acceleration. And acceleration is created, one of the things that will create acceleration for you is a pendulum. Okay? In the pendulum, the club is traveling as very fast as right at the bottom of the arc. If you create a pendulum motion with these pitch shots, that club, since it's always traveling at its very fastest right at the bottom, that's going to have some acceleration built into it. This next segment that we're going to be talking about is going to be what we call mid-range pitch shots. And mid-range pitch shots are going to be pitch shots that we use, let's say, between 30 and say 70 yards, something like that. Good. Now, in terms of, this is an area where most people have a terrible time. So we're going to come up with a couple of strategies that might help you in terms of being able to control the height and the distance and the trajectory that the golf ball is traveling. In terms of your alignments, still the three key alignments are the club face, the eyes, and the shoulders. The club face is going to be perpendicular to the line that you want the ball to travel on. The shoulders are going to be parallel, and the eyes will also be parallel. And the reason I keep referring to those eyes is because you can imagine if you started angling your eyes way off to the right or left, all the visual confusion that's going to create for you.
Right. Okay.
We're going to position the golf ball right in the center of our chest. And we still want it there because we still want to make sure we catch the ball first so we can let that spin doctor help us make sure that ball spins, right?
Right.
We're going to have our ankles about the width of our hips here, which is a little wider than we had on kind of our short pitch shots. And what we're going to do is we're going to have a couple of things that we're going to always keep constant about this shot. Number one is we're always going to make sure that the backswing motion is shorter than the forward swing motion. Where we really get in trouble on these shots is when we start having big, huge backswings and trying to slow the club down to keep the ball from going too far. So we're always going to make a motion where we swing the golf club to a good full finish and just change the length of the backswing and change the club to change our distance. So instead of just using one power source here, we're actually going to be using two power sources. We're going to use not only the turning of our body like we use in the short pitch, but we're also beginning to let the wrists and elbows lever here a little bit as we kind of swing the golf club back and forth. So we got two power sources, the turning of the body and the hinging of the wrists and the elbows. You can see with that swing, that ball went about 50 yards in the air. Okay?
Right.
Now the reason I know that that ball went 50 yards in the air is because I spent enough time to know that this much backswing equals 50 yards.
Okay.
Now, so one of the things that you might want to do is do some experimenting with how much backswing equals how much distance. So notice on this little very short backswing, I notice I always swing to that full finish. That's what allows me to keep that acceleration present. We talked about how important acceleration was earlier on. And that acceleration is really an important part of being a good pitcher of the golf ball. Notice now as I kind of make a little bit longer backswing, how the ball went a little bit further, right? And the only thing I really changed there was simply the length of the backswing. That ball went probably 15 yards further or so.
So keep the same tempo, just
Keep the
change
same
back.
tempo. All we're changing is the length of the backswing. And I actually wrote those yardages down and taped them on the back of my shaft, which is a good idea. A lot of the players are doing that. But notice on these shorter shots, because that I don't really have the full amount of speed, that ball is kind of hitting and really just stopping. It doesn't have that full, really roaring backspin that you get when you get the maximum speed built up.
Right.
When you get to a swing that let's say that long right there, you're probably going to start dealing with a tremendous amount of backspin. When that ball hits a green, if it hits the right surface, it's going to come screaming back. There's only two ways to stop the golf ball. One's with height and one's with spin.
Right.
So if you want to get the golf ball up in the air and land it softly, you have to have more loft. If you want it to spin, you have to have more speed. Okay, one of the things I would encourage you to do is just see if you couldn't use the turning of your body and your arm swing a little more together. I get a sense you maybe just kind of pulling your arms back by themselves. There you go. Very good right there. That was terrific. Very nice. Now we're gonna. What you'll notice is you start, if you keep making that swing with the same length backswing, you're gonna start noticing that the ball's gonna start going the same distance. Beautiful. And I would say that's roughly half of your normal backswing. Notice how quickly it stopped on the hit, right?
Right.
Spin doctor.
And it's great.
Isn't it a great tool?
It is. It's wonderful.
Beautiful. Look at that one.
Can't believe how quick they stop with this.
That ball's spinning, isn't it?
It sure does. You know, I've got a bad habit of taking too long of a backswing and trying to control distance with the club head speed, as opposed to controlling it with the amount of backswing that I take.
If you could learn to regulate the length of your backswing and learn to keep that follow through always complete, you're going to start getting some control over the distance that golf ball travels. And if you catch them solid, just like that first one you hit, that ball started looking like it was about that big in the air, it was spinning so hard. So when you hit it right with that spin doctor, it's really going to increase the spin rate and you'll really be able to see it. So far we've covered the short pitch from 0 to 30. We've covered the mid-range pitch from 30 to 70. Now we're going to start covering the kind of what we call the long pitch. And basically all it is really a full swing with a lofted club.
Sure.
Now this is where you're really going to start seeing that spin doctor really start doing his thing. We're still using our full swing grip. There's no need to use any other type of grip here. In terms of your ankles, anywhere between the width of let's say the sockets of your hips and the sockets of your shoulders, you don't want to get too wide on this shot because we're going to still stay fairly stable. There's not going to be a whole lot of rocking around here. We want to stay fairly centered over our feet. In terms of the weight distribution, I would say once again fairly even. There's no need to lean to the left or to the right, so fairly stable and balanced on your feet.
Okay.
And I would encourage you with your wedges to never try to take more than about a 3/4 swing. The reason is that one of the other common faults we have in wedge play is just getting way too much backswing, and the club is so short that there's really no need to try to take it that far back. If you need to hit it further, take more club. You see that thing spin?
That's great. Look at that.
It was fabulous.
Unbelievable.
It's really neat.
It is.
And that's what this thing does for you. I mean, when you hit it solid, it's going to spin. So all you got to do is catch it solid.
Okay.
So that's my job, is to help you guys improve your technique so that you can make it spin.
All right.
But if you do all the things that we're talking about here, I guarantee that ball can come screaming back at you. Joan, you want to try?
I'm ready.
Show us how. Beautiful. And by keeping it at 3/4, you can see you got that good. Whoa!
Oh, look at that thing
Is that
back
any
up.
Great shot.
Look at that one.
That's
Back
great.
up. It's fantastic.
Thing's racing back at you, huh?
Look at that
Red and
thing.
Ginger didn't dance that good.
These spin doctors can be used on not only your wedges, but also your 7, 8, 9 irons. And one of the things I would encourage you to do is to place it on your L wedge or your pitching wedge, or like I said, even a 7, or 8, or 9 iron. And it's useful on any type of approach shot really into the green. The next thing we're going to talk about is going to be the lob shot. And the lob shot is a shot where you need to create a little bit extra height. There's a couple things you can do to create that extra height. Number one is you can move the golf ball a little bit further forward, because the thing that you need for extra height is you need extra loft. So by moving the golf ball, let's say from the center of the chest to the left armpit, you can see that that straightens the shaft up a little bit and adds a little bit of loft onto the club.
Right.
So by just going from, let's say, our standard pitch shot, where you can see the ball is driven down just slightly, as I move the golf ball forward, you can see the golf ball gets up in the air without me having to do any work at all. So I just kept everything exactly the same. Ball pops up in the air by simply moving the golf ball forward. Now, I would encourage you to use your L wedge when you do this, because if you use a sand wedge and it starts skidding around on the ground, it's going to cause the club to bounce up and hit the golf ball, and it's going to go way too far. In terms of the alignments are going to change a little bit. Normally we use the club face perpendicular and the other angles parallel, but here we're going to leave the club face perpendicular, but begin to open the body angles. On this little short lob shot, notice we're still kind of using our little short pitching action, right? We're not into the long swing yet, so notice that my feet are still fairly close together, my weight's still fairly even on my feet. The path of the club here is going to follow my body angles. It's not going to really be going the same direction that it has been going in the past. It's going to actually kind of swing a little bit from out to in, just ever so slightly, and the club face is going to be used to kick the golf ball back towards the target.
So it's just like in the shorter shot that we did, we're going to keep this all straight?
Right. I would say you still are looking for that inline condition at impact. There's no need to try to scoop the golf ball, and that's one of the very, very common errors that happens in this shot.
Are you not breaking your wrist at all? You're just taking the triangle backward and forward?
The wrist may break a little bit as a result of the extra motion that's necessary to create the speed, but it's not a conscious actually hinging of the wrist like we do kind of in the mid-range pitch shot.
Okay.
All right, so I'll demonstrate here a couple times, let you see it, and you may notice a little bit of hinging, but it's not a conscious. I still feel like I'm just using the triangle.
Okay.
All right, so here we go. Now, if we want to create more height, what we're going to do is simply open our body angles a little bit more. So we increase maybe from 10 degrees open to 20 degrees open, but still keeping the club face angling down the target line, which does what? Puts the ball up in the air, allows us to swing a little harder, so we end up with more height and more spin. So you can see that if I wanted to, I could really open my body angles as much as 45 degrees open, keep the club face open, wide open like this, and take almost a full swing, and have the golf ball go only maybe 15 or 20 yards.
Where's your weight?
My weight's evenly distributed on my feet. There's no need for me to really start leaning.
Okay.
Okay. That's another one of the common problems that we do have in pitching is we start leaning and then the angle of attack gets real steep and we end up with problems.
Okay.
We're going to go a little bit longer swing, with a little more height, more spin. So we're going to open your body angles up maybe a little bit more and just start making a little bit longer swing on the same angle. So you're still swinging kind of on an angle that's kind of going a little bit this way, right?
Right.
Okay. So I get the sense you're going a little bit out to in here. Look at that one. What, do you think that ball's not spinning?
Oh, I bet it is.
Whoa!
Great.
That thing's really coming back.
It's incredible.
So this is where you're really going to start seeing a tremendous amount of spin with the spin doctor. This is where it's really going to start giving you some good feedback. When you start swinging with that high amount of loft and high amount of speed, that ball's really going to start coming back at you. Okay. Let's try it again. That was terrific. Beautiful. Look how hard you're swinging. That ball's going maybe 40 yards in the air, and look at it come back. Good gosh. It's incredible.
Give you the confidence to get over that bunker, won't it?
Yeah, and the nice thing is, once you get that technique set up, it allows you the freedom to go ahead and take a swing at these shorter shots instead of having to kind of decelerate and hold that thing off. So it gives you that acceleration we talked about earlier, right?
Right. That's
the freedom to swing at it.
I'm finding I'm having the confidence to go ahead and swing through because I know it's not going to release off the back of the green.
One of the things the reverse groove technology can provide for us is the opportunity to displace a lot of foreign material, such as grass, water, or any substance that might get between the club face and the golf ball. But with the spin doctor, it's going to really allow us to displace much of the grass that's between the golf ball and the club face. In terms of your alignments, it's a lot like the lob shot we played earlier, where we put the club down behind the golf ball and place it at the target, and then we open our body angles while leaving the club face angling towards the target. Our ankles will be about the width of the sockets of our hips because we're going to be taking a fairly long swing here on this shot. It's going to take quite a bit of speed to get down through that grass. The ball is going to be positioned, I would say, pretty much in the center of the chest here because we're really going to have to kind of make sure that we have a little steeper angle of attack. And so as we start swinging the golf club, we're going to put a little bit more weight up on our front foot here, just to increase the steepness of the angle. We really have to make sure the club gets traveling up and down here, that doesn't travel too shallow. Shot will look something like this. And you can see that I kind of slide that club up underneath the golf ball. The ball pops up in the air and lands very, very softly. Beautiful. And notice using the spin doctor, when that ball hits the ground, it's still spinning, even out of that deep rough.
That's great.
That's incredible is what that is.
It is, because you'd think it'd normally run forever.
Usually they will out of here. They're going to have to run a little bit, but you know, the fact that the spin doctor is displacing some of the form matter, when it hits the ground, that's it.
One good thing, when the average player is trying to hit a wedge shot and put any kind of spin on it, what he does is he makes too much of a cutting swing motion to cut across it. With the spin doctor, it teaches you just to stay down, to make solid contact and make a nice, smooth, rhythmic swing, because when you make solid contact with this, it's going to land on the green, you're going to spin it back. You're going to have so much fun doing it, you're going to want to do it again. The more you try it, the easier you see how it is to do, how it is to use this thing, how often you can spin this ball, how easy it is to spin this ball. By just making a normal swing, making good solid contact, the ball hits on the green and comes back. The beauty of that, most people when they try and hit a wedge, they're trying to lift it up in the air, they come up on it, they don't stay down and hit it. With the spin doctor, it's so much fun, it's easy just to stay there, make a swing, hit the ball, watch it spin back. Man, I love this thing.